Greetings, everybody out there in YouTube land. My name is Stephen Walton. I am the author of the Fandom Menace Volume 1 of Fandom Betrayed. This is the first in a series of books that I believe some people have looked at as face value and believe for some reason that this is entirely about The Last Jedi or the fan backlash to Disney Star Wars. Although that is a part of these volumes, it is not all that these volumes are about. For any of you that don't know, there's been an ideology that has infected entertainment. It is a preferred racism, a preferred sexism. It's an industry accepted ists and isms that have come from around 2014, started in an event called Gamergate, where industry professionals were caught with another game developer trading sexual favors for favorable game reviews. They were called out by the gaming fandom and then subsequently bashed by the gaming journos, by these journo activists, people who take their own activism, their own ideology and belief, and force it upon the reader, inject it into the material being written, and look at everything through that lens instead of upholding professional journalistic standards. This also led to the infection of these types of people into the mainstream comics industry, which became ComicsGate. That's when many people left or stopped supporting the mainstream comics industry because of this ideology, this industry accepted isms and ists. A lot of this has been followed with propaganda, falsehoods, lies, attacks upon the consumer themselves, attacks upon the customer, the fans of many franchises. And this has now infected television and Hollywood. We saw this with BBC Doctor Who when they hired Jodie Whittaker, not to bring a new chapter into Doctor Who, but as a way to yell at fans, as a way to wait for the fans who didn't like that change, the Doctor being gender swapped, and using it to call them misogynist or sexist or whatever ist or phobe they can come up with. The same thing has happened with CBS All Access Star Trek. If you don't like Star Trek Discovery, if you don't like Star Trek Picard, it is because you are an ist or a phobe. The media, the mainstream, the access media, and shills, who praise certain properties, who do not really criticize them because they get access to these properties, have also added to this. And it's become an anti-fan movement. The Fandom Menace is a pushback to that toxicity. It's a pushback to people in the industry who attack the customers, the consumers, the fandom. And that is really what the Fandom Menace volumes are about. It's taking a look at social justice warrior culture, far left activism, how it placed itself within controlling interests of these properties, and then uses them as a platform to espouse their propaganda. And it doesn't matter if you are a conservative, if you are independent, if you're libertarian, if you're Green Party, if you're a leftist yourself, these things don't matter. The moment that you speak out against the poor quality of entertainment, because SJWs really don't create decent entertainment, and when you call that out, then you are automatically alt-right. You are an ist. You are a phobe. And this is something that the Fandom Menace is fighting against, in my opinion. Now, the Fandom Menace volumes are written from my perspective, from my opinion. I do not represent the entirety of everyone who carries the hashtag, the Fandom Menace. There is no centralized leadership. We are a collection of independent voices speaking out against entertainment properties being used as platforms to espouse rhetoric, dogma, propaganda, segregation, hate, racism, sexism. That's what we're standing up against. In order to convey what these books are about, I have several clips that I'm going to show you from various YouTubers, along with giving you the chapter heading for each one in Volume 1. I hope this gives you a little bit of an insight about what these books are about. The topics do continue on throughout the further volumes as they reach out into broader areas. In Volume 2, I'm going to be touching on Star Trek, and in Volume 3, I'll be going over Doctor Who, but not just those properties themselves. I'm going to be speaking about the people who have been consistently attacked by SJW mobs, far leftists, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, their brands being canceled by these types who hold this, punch a Nazi ideology, this really terrible disrespect to everything that came before them. I hope you enjoy this, and thank you very much.
I am a female gamer and I am real. and I shouldn't have to justify myself in this day and age of gaming. In fact, I don't have to justify myself to other gamers. None of us girl gamers do. We just have to justify our race, gender, and sexuality to gaming journalists, to the radical feminist game devs, to the social justice warriors, and the anti-Gamergate supporters. And that makes me sick. How dare you say that we're sock puppets? You. My name is Fox, and I support Gamergate. And I am not your shield.
A gender issue. Nothing about this is a gender issue. White cis male. I'm a woman. Internal misogyny. Whew. That was close. Are you serious? You're implying a woman can't have her own opinion? You're oppressed. You can't tell me otherwise. You don't exist. You're a sock puppet from 4chan. La 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 la. Blocked. 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 My patriarchy. My patriarchy. My patriarchy. My patriarchy. My patriarchy.
Back to this tweet. What does the president have to do with any of this? I know you're trying to be funny and draw attention to yourself, and you've achieved the latter, but are you that much of a one-note comedian that's all you could come up with? Kinda disappointing if you ask me. But what should I expect from the Ghostbusters 2016 camp? The whole situation was a positivity vacuum. The more I think about it, the more I realize that Ghostbusters 2016 was patient zero for the political dreck that influences every aspect of geek culture reporting. It's the progenitor to The Last Jedi, where Rian Johnson attacked fans by calling them man-babies. A phrase he borrowed from Eric D. Snyder. Wow, Rian Johnson can't even come up with his own insults. Those are ripped off too. And now look where Star Wars is. The Ghostbusters 2016 and Star Wars parallels are disappointing because once great franchises are now most recently associated with trash. I for one was happy to move away from the film and never look back. We reviewed it on Patreon, and we will never watch it again. Ghostbusters 2016 emboldened asshole directors, asshole actors, and asshole writers to attack fans in an attempt to elevate their property, but in reality, all they did was attack their customer base. Before Jones came out in a desperate attempt for relevancy, Melissa McCarthy pulled the same card back in October. Just look at this headline. Melissa McCarthy still stung by Ghostbusters backlash. I just don't know why people are so afraid of women. And here's the quote. I just don't know why people are so afraid of women. It's fascinating to me, McCarthy told Yahoo Entertainment. There's one criticism in particular that she still can't wrap her head around. If a movie, 35 years later, is ruining your childhood, don't blame us. You've got your own issues, she joked. Director Paul Feig said that Ghostbusters suffered at the box office in part because of the trolling turned into a cause, creating unnecessary baggage for what was meant to be a fun, goofy summer movie. But while the supernatural comedy didn't make as much as Sony hoped, it wasn't exactly the flop many outlets reported. Ghostbusters had the biggest opening weekend of any Melissa McCarthy movie and remains the fourth highest grossing film of her career. I do enjoy the constant excuses made for this film by writers of a certain persuasion. It's like they can't admit that it failed, even though it did. They will make excuses no matter what, hoping that fans and critics of said remakes accept them.
This movie is a beautiful movie. There's no doubt about it. Probably the most beautifully shot Star Wars movie. But as a sequel to The Force Awakens, and as a movie that falls within the Star Wars saga that's supposed to lead us into Episode 9, this movie's fucking terrible. It's absolutely terrible, and it took me a little while to come to that conclusion, but I'm going to tell you why. Now, in the theater, there are moments that blew my mind, especially on the first viewing. The moment on Crate with Luke Skywalker and Kylo firing all of the weapons on him and then Luke walking out of it unscathed. Amazing moment. That's Luke fucking Skywalker right there. And that, I literally teared up on my first viewing when I saw that moment. I was in awe. I was like, this is the greatest Star Wars moment of all time. And then Kylo comes down. They have a face-off on Crate. That beautiful imagery of both of them standing across from each other with their lightsabers. And I'm like, is this really happening right now? Is this really happening? This is unbelievable shit going on. Ultimately, it didn't happen because it was a goddamn projection from Luke Skywalker. And like, why? Why wouldn't you just let Luke fucking come there and do that? If he's going to die, which he died, which is bullshit, but if he's going to die, at least let him go out being there in person and actually having some type of lightsaber fight and having some type of moment. But, and the whole film could have been redeemed with that. But unfortunately, it didn't happen, and I don't know why it had to go out down like that. But it's bullshit, and now Luke Skywalker's dead, so it really doesn't matter. You know, moving forward, we're never going to get a Luke Skywalker moment now. So our memories of Luke Skywalker is that he runs around jerking off space dinosaurs and drinking their milk, and he goes fishing, and he pretty much is not Luke Skywalker in any capacity whatsoever that we remembered. It just does not set well with me.
When episode 7 came out, right? I got a phone call. You're not on the poster. I said, fine, it's just another in a series of humiliations. There's so much unsaid about where he's been and what he's done. And actors like to write their own backstories. You know, you want to figure out what you've done and where you've been. But I realized that wasn't really important to the story of Force Awakens. I still made it up myself. And, you know, I tried to show it to JJ, and he, you know, was accommodating, but basically patted me on the head, gave me a cookie, and made me go away. He has lines. So that's already a major difference from episode 7. How did the most optimistic, hopeful character in the galaxy turn into this hermit who says it's time for the Jedi to end? I read that and I said, what? I mean, that's not what a Jedi does. I mean, a Jedi is optimistic. A Jedi has tenacity. He never gives up. He doesn't secrete himself on an island, but you'll see. I mean, the wait for 8 is nearly over. It certainly surprised me to hear Luke say it's time for the Jedi to end. I said, what?
Yeah.
Luke was the most optimistic, hopeful character. And
Yes.
I had a real, sort of a back and forth with Ryan. I said, Ryan, a Jedi doesn't give up.
I remember you saying that, yeah.
You know, a Jedi, if he does something wrong, he makes it right. You know, even if he's traumatized and goes away, he regroup within, 6 months, but 20, 30 years? And come on, that's a little bit overindulgent in my view.
Because in Hollywood, remember, kids, it's not important if it's of high quality, only if it makes money.
And in the next scene, Luke Skywalker dies. What the fuck? Who the hell approved this fucking mess? I mean, Jesus Christ, this film is a true test of how much the fans will put up with before letting a Star Wars film sink below a perfect 10 rating. People think this is quality, that this was made with some level of good writing. This is a horrifying mess and easily the worst Star Wars film in the series. You can like it as much as you want, but it is a fucking disaster. The Force Awakens has a bunch of flaws, absolutely, but it provided massive amounts of freedom for a sequel. Choose whatever the fuck you want. Parentage, villain history, intertwining and complicated levels of good and evil, the history of the Force and the world, both before and in between the movies and the whole saga. So much to work with. And they fucked it all. They fucked Snoke, Phasma, Finn, Shrek, Han, Poe, Leia, rules in general, the world. Why don't the Stormtroopers have Phasma's armor? It's the only one that fucking works, for fuck's sake. Phasma beaten the fuck out twice, fired a gun maybe a few times. What a fucking Snoke sets up calls across the fucking universe, tosses people from wall to wall, manipulates lightning without a second thought or effort, and he was killed by a lightsaber sitting half a meter away from him on his fucking chair. Why are you worried about the wall, guys? Leia is now Force trained and proficient enough. She can just break it open for you, right? Do they need to worry about the tracker getting the Millennium Falcon? I mean, the tracker, does it work on small... let's build a rebellion. No money, no vehicles, no ships, no crew, no support. We got all we need. We got Porg. Finn and Rose kissed. That was a thing. The Force now lets you have calls, hit people, bring down lightning, project yourself across the fucking galaxy. Why the hell didn't Purple Hair just tell people her plan? The entire plot with Finn would have been avoided, but this plot had no relevance anyway, other than killing Phasma and finding a girlfriend, I guess. Luke spent the whole film fucking grumpy and shriveled only to die. No respect to his character nor his death. The deaths of Han fucking Solo and Luke Skywalker are met with one or two characters getting a reaction, and the rest being fucking cut off. Harrison Ford was right to jump off this series while he could. Got out before it became a fucking joke. I am so sorry, Mark Hamill. I'm sorry for what they've made you fucking do. It is honestly harder to explain why the prequels are bad because it is complicated. While this film is so rotten in most aspects, I find it hard to be convinced that people actually find quality within it.
For those of you not in the know, here's what happened. Richard ComicsGate Meyer hosted a crowdfunding campaign for his comic book Jawbreakers Lost Souls. The campaign raised the most money for a crowdfunded comic at the time. Indie publisher Antarctic Press expressed interest in publishing the book, and Richard Clemente Meyer agreed. When it got announced, comic book pros lost their shit. The whole time the campaign ran, they didn't mention it. No comic book news sites talked about it, but once it ended, and this thing with AP got announced, the pros stopped inhaling each other's queefs long enough to whine on social media about Jawbreakers getting published. The bitching came to its pitiful little climax when a bunch of store owners said that they wouldn't carry the book or order it for customers. Well, that's kind of shady. You're trying to block people from buying a book just because you don't personally like one of the creators. So Richard Comics Are For Everyone Meyer decided to post the names of the shops and their contact info so people would know which shops would refuse to carry the book. He told people not to harass the shops, but in SJW, don't harass people translates to, he sent the mob to attack comic book stores. These folks got so worked up, they actually colluded not only to refuse to carry Jawbreakers, but any book published by Antarctic Press. This is actual retailers and super secret Legion of Doom Facebook groups planning to fuck over a company because they published a book by someone these people don't like. In comes Mark Waid. Waid publicly announced on his Facebook page that he would contact the top brass at AP, who he's never worked with, and tell them not to publish Jawbreakers. Now, when I say contact, I mean he called the owner's private medical practice to advise him that it'd be a shame if AP published the book. Richard Clapbacks Are My Passion Meyer is a horrible person because lies, lies, and more lies, and you don't want to be associated with that because it might not end well for you or your indie employees too. The result was AP backed out of the deal, releasing a public statement that read like the decision was made under duress. He decided the best thing to do was gloat. Gloat all over Facebook, gloat in multiple interviews, just spill his tortious seed all over the place. In print. And each interview made it worse because he kept saying more things that made it sound like he threatened to use his clout in the comic book industry to keep anyone employed by AP from working with other publishers if AP published Jawbreakers.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law-Splaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And yes, I am a real lawyer. And today, I'm here to talk to you about why Jeremy Hambly, otherwise known as the Quartering or Unsleeved Media, is suing a cross-dressing board game creator named Prettiest Matt or Matt Loader for somewhere north of $350,000. So hang out with me for a second. Here we have the caption to the case. This is Hambly versus Loader. It is taking place in the District Court of the Southern District of Indiana in Indianapolis. Why is it taking place here? Let's address that real quick. I'm going to remove this caption, but it's right there so you can see it. All right. This is taking place in Indiana because Matt Loader allegedly assaulted Jeremy Hambly at Gen Con in 2018. Actually, a little bit before Gen Con at a bar, not actually at Gen Con. Some people are confused, thinking that Jeremy Hambly should also sue Gen Con, but Gen Con was not really involved in the altercation between Jeremy Hambly and Matt Loader. Now, allegedly, Jeremy Hambly was at a bar prior to Gen Con, meeting a couple people, shaking hands, saying hi, getting ready for the show, and Matt Loader approached Jeremy and allegedly asked if he was Jeremy Hambly. When he responded yes, he started punching him repeatedly in the face and head. And I don't know if you know this, but Matt Loader is a pretty big guy. He is an instructor of Krav Maga and apparently has a penchant for punching people, especially Nazis, which we'll get to in a little bit. Now, he starts punching Jeremy Hambly, who, after being separated by some bystanders, retreats into the bar, and Matt Loader is escorted away.
So I hope you enjoyed these clips. These are all from various YouTubers, wonderful YouTubers. I figured the best way on this medium would be to share clips explaining the feeling behind each of these chapters. If this has been your first time stopping by, I hope I've earned your subscription. I hope you give it a like and a share. To anybody out there who's one of my regular subscribers or viewers, if you could share this out in a Facebook group or any kind of social media to anyone who may be misconstruing what the Fandom Menace Volumes is actually about, I would very much appreciate it. Thank you all for stopping by. Wash your hands. Wash your ass. Be good to one another. Peace. Hail, my brothers and sisters in the chat. Hail the Fandom Menace. It is the Fandom Menace Historian, your Fandom Menace Historian, born in the chats with my brothers and sisters, letting you know that the Fandom Menace Volume 1 of Fandom Betrayed is back in demand. You can pick up this first edition book on Indiegogo for a limited time. Here's a comment from someone well respected in our community, Shellback, commenting on the importance of the Fandom Menace Volume 1.
Get on Indiegogo and order a copy of that damn book, or you're an effing retard. Okay, that's yeah.
Pick up your copy today.